Surrender or we'll move your star. Grand Admiral Lawrence Evans' words echoed through the Suliban throne room, an ultimatum as implacable as the human fleet poised at the edge of the system. The Galactic Empire had dismissed the rumors at first, preposterous tales of entire star systems vanishing from one sector only to reappear in another. Emperor Murloc had scoffed at the reports, secure in the knowledge that his civilization reigned supreme. No species, least of all the upstart humans, could wield such power. But now, as he gazed at the unwavering figure of the Grand Admiral on the viewscreen, Murloc felt a creeping dread. The humans had achieved the impossible. Months ago, in a secret Earth facility, their scientists had unlocked the ability to relocate stars themselves. An unthinkable feat, a capability that rewrote the rules of galactic dominance. The Suliban had grown complacent, their technology stagnant, their ambition dulled by centuries of unchallenged rule. They were ill-prepared for this new paradigm, for an enemy that could rearrange the very cosmos to suit their whims. As reports flooded in of vanishing stars and dislocated constellations, the truth became inescapable. Humanity had risen, armed with a weapon that rendered fleets and armies obsolete. The Galactic Empire faced a choice: capitulation or oblivion. In the face of this existential threat, Emperor Murloc could only watch as the era of Suliban supremacy crumbled to dust, supplanted by the dawning age of human hegemony. The galaxy itself lay in the balance, subject to the whims of its new masters. In the heart of the human empire, Emperor Maximilian Thorn studied the star map projected before him, the myriad pinpricks of light now subject to humanity's whims. The recent demonstration of their star-moving technology had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, and now the great powers scrambled to respond. Thorn's advisors, Admiral Evans and Diplomat Croft, stood on either side, their stances mirroring the divergent paths laid out before the Empire. Evans, resplendent in his crisp uniform, urged swift and decisive action to solidify humanity's dominance. Croft, his brow furrowed, counseled caution and restraint, warning of the perils of unchecked aggression. As the debate raged in the halls of power, a clandestine drama unfolded light years away. Zilthia, the Mantoid operative, had breached the very heart of human ingenuity, the research facility where Dr. Ethan Novak and his team had unlocked the secrets of stellar manipulation. Assuming the guise of a brilliant xenophysicist, Zilthia worked to penetrate the closely guarded circle of scientists. Novak, equal parts genius and egotist, found himself drawn to the enigmatic alien researcher. Her incisive mind and exotic allure proved an irresistible combination, and he soon found himself sharing more than just scientific theories. As they worked side by side, a begrudging respect blossomed, tinted with an undercurrent of attraction. But even as Zilthia wove her web of deceit, she stumbled upon a revelation that threatened to upend everything. Hidden within the confiscated Suliban databanks were whispers of an ancient civilization, one that had mastered the stars eons before humanity's ascent. If the Star Mover was mere table scraps of this long-vanished race's technology, the true extent of their potential power defied comprehension. In the shadowed halls of the Galactic Empire, Emperor Murloc moved to counter the human threat. Emissaries raced between the great alien powers, seeking to forge a united front against the upstart humans. But centuries of mistrust and rivalry proved difficult to overcome, and the specter of defection loomed. Some saw an opportunity in humanity's rise, a chance to break free from the Suliban yoke and chart their own course. And so the game was afoot, a shadow war of secrets and lies, played out against the backdrop of a galaxy in upheaval. On one side, the human empire, flush with newfound power and riven by internal debate. On the other, the crumbling Galactic Empire, desperate to maintain its slipping grasp on power. And in the middle, Zilthia and Novak, drawn together by circumstance and bound by a shared secret that could tip the balance of galactic power. The stars themselves hung in the balance, their very positions now pieces on a cosmic chessboard. And as humanity and the Suliban maneuvered, the specter of an ancient, unfathomable power loomed, waiting to be unleashed upon an unsuspecting galaxy. As Zilthia pored over the ancient data, her eyes widened in horrified realization. The symbols and equations coalesced into a chilling narrative. the star-moving technology, the apex of the long-vanished civilization's achievements, had also been the instrument of their downfall. In their hubris, they had pushed the boundaries too far, manipulating the very fabric of the universe until it buckled and tore beneath the strain. The cataclysm had been swift and absolute, erasing their empire from existence in a cosmic blink. With trembling hands, Zilthia reached for her communicator, desperate to warn Novak of the impending catastrophe. But as her fingers brushed the device, she hesitated. The human empire, drunk on its newfound power, would not be swayed by mere words of caution. They would dismiss her warnings as the alarmist ravings of an alien spy. No, she needed something more tangible, a weapon to neutralize the Star Mover before it could bring about the galaxy's destruction. In the depths of the alien summit, tempers flared and accusations flew. Emperor Murloc, his face a mask of barely contained fury, watched as the Krelnorian delegation stormed out, their leaders' parting words dripping with venom. The fragile alliance, so painstakingly forged, crumbled before his eyes. In desperation, he turned to Valkorion, his most trusted advisor. "Bring them back," he hissed, his voice low and urgent. "By any means necessary." Valkorion, a veteran of countless diplomatic skirmishes, bowed his head in assent. As his ship sliced through the void towards Krelnorian space, he couldn't shake the sense of unease that coiled in his gut. And when the first plasma blast slammed into his shields, he knew his fears had been well-founded. On the bridge of the human strike cruiser, Commander Damian Reeves allowed himself a predatory smile as he watched the Sulaban ship careen towards the moon's surface. "Prepare a landing party," he barked, his eyes glinting with anticipation. "I want that Sulaban alive." In his laboratory on Earth, Dr. Novak's heart raced as he stared at the glowing readouts. The energy signatures, a ghostly trail left by the ancient civilization's meddling, pulsed and danced before his eyes. With this data, the human empire could track any star manipulated by the technology, anticipating and countering any move the Galactic Empire might make. It was a game-changer, a key to solidifying humanity's dominance. And yet, as he reached for the comm to report his breakthrough, a flicker of doubt stayed his hand. The power they wielded was immense, but at what cost? Zilthia, her plan set in motion, slipped through the shadows of the research facility. In her wake, a trail of sabotaged equipment and corrupted data marked her passing. The virus, a masterpiece of bioengineering, lay hidden in the heart of the Star Mover itself, waiting for the moment to strike. It was a desperate gamble, a last resort to safeguard the galaxy from humanity's folly. And on the far reaches of human space, Zithara, the Canthari emissary, stepped forth from her ship onto the soil of Earth. Her mission, cloaked in the guise of diplomacy, was a dance on the edge of a knife. The Canthari, masters of the cosmic game, had their own designs for the galaxy's future, and in Zithara's hands lay the threads of a web that would ensnare empires and reshape the stars themselves. The board was set, the pieces in motion, and as the players maneuvered, the specter of annihilation loomed, a silent observer waiting for the final, fateful move. Zilthia's fingers danced across the holographic interface, her eyes darting between the flickering displays. The virus, a masterpiece of bioengineering, slithered its way through the Star Mover's systems. A faint smile played at the corners of her mouth as the progress bar inched forward. Behind her, the laboratory door hissed open. "I must say your work is impressive," Dr. Novak's voice cut through the silence. "For an alien." Zilthia froze, her heart's pounding in her chest. She turned slowly, meeting Novak's piercing gaze. "How long have you known?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. Novak stepped closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "Long enough. The question is, what do you hope to accomplish here?" In that moment, the facade crumbled. Zilthia's shoulders sagged as the weight of her mission bore down upon her. "You don't understand the power you're wielding," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The ancient civilization, The klaxon's wail cut her off mid-sentence. Novak's eyes widened in realization. "You've done something to the Star Mover." Before Zilthia could respond, the door burst open. Imperial guards flooded the room, their weapons trained on the alien spy. Light years away, on a desolate moon's surface, Commander Reeves's boots crunched against the rocky terrain. His quarry, the Suliban diplomat Valkorion, had proven far more resourceful than anticipated. A plasma blast erupted from behind a nearby outcropping, forcing Reeves to dive for cover. As he rolled to his feet, he caught a glimpse of Valkorion sprinting towards a narrow ravine. "You can't run forever, Suliban," Reeves bellowed, giving chase. Valkorion's voice echoed off the canyon walls. "Perhaps not, but I don't need to." Too late, Reeves realized the trap. A carefully placed explosive sent a cascade of boulders tumbling down, cutting off his pursuit and disabling his ship in one fell swoop. As the dust settled, Valkorion emerged from his hiding spot. To Reeves's surprise, the Suliban diplomat held no weapon. "It seems we find ourselves at an impasse, Commander," Valkorion said, his tone measured. "Perhaps it's time we discuss this like civilized beings." Reeves's hand hovered over his sidearm. "Why should I trust you?" Valkorion's eyes met his. "Because the fate of our empires may well hinge on this very moment." On Krelnerix Prime, the debate raged on. Regent Vok stood at the center of the storm, his advisor's voices a cacophony of conflicting opinions. "The humans offer us a chance to break free from Suliban oppression." General Krasnor banged his head on the table. "We'd be fools not to seize it." Ambassador Lithia's voice cut through the din. "And replace one master with another? The humans' power is unprecedented. We must proceed with caution." Vok raised a hand, silencing the room. "We cannot make this decision lightly. The future of our people hangs in the balance." A junior aide burst into the chamber, his face flushed with excitement. "Regent, we've just received word. The Suliban diplomat Valkorion has brokered a ceasefire with a human commander on the Outer Rim." The room fell silent as the implication sank in. Vokral's mind raced with possibilities. Perhaps, he mused, there is a third path, one that leads not to subjugation, but to true cooperation. Back on Earth, the Quinthari delegation moved through the corridors of power with practiced grace. Zethra, their leader, captivated human officials with her insights into stellar manipulation. "Your work is truly groundbreaking," she remarked, examining a holographic model of the Star Mover. "But have you considered the implications of phase-shifting the quantum substrate?" Dr. Chen, the lead human scientist, blinked in surprise. We hadn't even thought to approach it from that angle." Zethra smiled, her eyes glinting with hidden knowledge. "Perhaps I could offer some suggestions." As she delved deeper into humanity's most closely guarded secrets, Zethra's true purpose remained concealed. The Quinthari would shepherd this fledgling race, guiding them away from the brink of destruction, and if necessary, they would clip humanity's wings before they could soar too close to the sun. In the bowels of a secret facility, Emperor Thorn loomed over the captured Zilthia. "You will tell us everything you know," he snarled, "or you will suffer the consequences." Admiral Evans nodded in agreement. "We've contained the damage from your little virus. Now it's time to show the galaxy what happens to those who defy us." Sebastian Croft stepped forward, his face etched with concern. "Your Majesty, I beg you to reconsider. This could be our chance to open a dialogue, to find a peaceful resolution." Thorn's eyes narrowed. "And what would you have us do, Croft? Capitulate to alien demands?" "Not capitulate," Croft replied, his voice steady. "Negotiate. From a position of strength, yes, but with an eye towards coexistence rather than domination." As the Emperor weighed his options, the fate of empires hung in the balance. The cosmic dance continued, its intricate steps echoing across the stars. In the dimly lit corridors of the Human Empire's research facility, Zethara's fingers danced across holographic displays, her eyes darting between streams of data. The Quinthari scientist's plan was unfolding with clockwork precision, each star system shifting imperceptibly in the cosmic tapestry. A soft chime alerted her to an incoming transmission. She paused, heart racing, as Dr. Novak's face materialized on the screen. "Zethra, I need you in my lab immediately. There's an anomaly in the stellar drift patterns." She forced a smile. "Of course, Doctor. I'll be right there." As the door to Novak's lab slid open, Zethra found herself face-to-face with a wall of Imperial guards, their weapons trained on her. Dr. Novak stood at the center, his expression a mixture of betrayal and anger. "Did you really think we wouldn't notice?" Novak's voice was low, dangerous. "The systematic relocation of key systems, the subtle shifts in strategic positions. What game are you playing, Zethira?" She straightened, dropping all pretense. "Not a game, Doctor. A solution. The Quinthari seek to end this senseless march towards mutual destruction." "By crippling both empires?" Novak's eyes narrowed. "By forcing a new equilibrium," Zethira countered, "one that ensures galactic stability under Quinthari stewardship." The tension in the room was palpable as Novak's hand hovered over the facility's alarm. "I can't let you do this. This technology, it's my life's work." "And it could be the galaxy's undoing," Zethira pleaded. "Please, Doctor, see reason." Novak's fingers twitched and klaxons blared throughout the complex. In the Imperial War Room, Admiral Evans smacked his head on the holotable, scattering star charts. "This Quinthari deception cannot stand. We must strike now while we still hold the advantage." Emperor Thorne's gaze swept the room, settling on Sebastian Croft. "Your counsel, Croft?" Sebastian stepped forward, his voice steady. "Violence begets violence, Your Majesty. We have an opportunity here for a diplomatic solution, one that showcases our strength without resorting to bloodshed." Thorne nodded slowly. "What do you propose?" "A simple ultimatum," Croft replied. "We inform the Quinthari that unless Zethira reverses her actions and they submit to human sovereignty, we will relocate their homeworld to the outer reaches of the galaxy." The Emperor's eyes glinted. "Make it so." Across the galaxy, on a desolate moon's surface, plasma fire erupted as a Krelnorian strike force descended from the crimson sky. Commander Reeves and Valkorion, their fragile truce shattered, dove for cover behind a jagged outcropping. "So much for your ceasefire," Reeves spat, returning fire. Valkorion's reply was cut short as a stray bolt struck the rock above them, showering them with debris. "We need to move." They sprinted across the lunar wasteland, plasma bolts sizzling past. Reeves spotted a narrow crevasse ahead. "There!" As they neared the opening, a lucky shot caught Reeves in the back. He stumbled, falling to his knees. "Go!" Reeves gasped, tossing Valkorion his sidearm. "Get out of here!" Valkorion hesitated, torn between self-preservation and an unexpected sense of loyalty to his unlikely ally. Reeves met his gaze, a ghost of a smile on his lips. "That's an order, diplomat." With a final nod of respect, Valkorion disappeared into the crevasse. Reeves turned to face the approaching Krelnorians, perseverance etched on his features as he raised his weapon. Days later, in the opulent throne room of the Sulaban capital, Emperor Murloc listened intently as Valkorion recounted his harrowing tale. "Us, and then, despite our differences, despite everything, this human gave his life to ensure my escape." Valkorion's voice cracked with emotion. "I've seen the face of our enemy, Your Majesty, and I no longer believe they are our enemy at all." Murloc leaned back, his aged face creased with contemplation. "You truly believe we can find common ground with these humans?" "I believe we must," Valkorion replied, "for the sake of both our empires." As Murloc weighed his advisor's words, a message flashed across the room's holo display. The human emperor, flanked by his advisors, appeared before them. "Greetings, Emperor Murloc," Thorne began, his voice resonating with authority. "I come to you not as a conqueror, but as an architect of a new galactic order. We stand at a crossroads, and I offer you a choice." Murloc's eyes narrowed. "Speak plainly, human." "Join us," Thorne continued. "Accept human protection and Quinthari oversight. In return, your people will retain a measure of autonomy and security in this new era." The Sulaban Emperor's gaze flickered to Valkorion, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. "And if we refuse?" Murloc asked, though he already suspected the answer. Thorne's expression hardened. "Then we will have no choice but to demonstrate the full extent of our stellar manipulation capabilities. The galaxy is changing, Emperor Murloc. The question is, will you change with it?" As the transmission ended, the throne room fell silent. The fate of empires hung in the balance, the cosmic dance poised on the edge of a new movement. The hollow transmission flickered out, leaving Emperor Murloc and Valkorion in stunned silence. The weight of Thorn's ultimatum hung heavy in the air. Murloc's talons drummed against his throne. So be it. We will bend, but we will not break. Weeks later, Chancellor Gregory Hawthorne's shuttle pierced the atmosphere of the Sulaban homeworld. As he descended, the sprawling capital stretched out below him, a tapestry of alien architecture now dotted with the angular shapes of human outposts. Hawthorne's boots echoed on the polished floor as he strode into the grand reception hall. Emperor Murloc sat rigid on his throne, flanked by advisors whose faces were masks of barely concealed resentment. "Emperor Murloc," Hawthorne said, his voice carrying across the cavernous space, "I come bearing the authority of Emperor Thorn to oversee this transition." Murloc's eyes narrowed. "And what precisely does this transition entail, Chancellor?" Hawthorne's lips curled into a thin smile. "For starters, the establishment of a unified command. I'm appointing Admiral Evans to lead this initiative." A collective hiss rippled through the Sulaban delegation. Valkorion stepped forward, his voice measured. "Chancellor, perhaps a more diplomatic choice would ease tensions." "Diplomacy is a luxury we can ill afford," Hawthorne replied coldly. "Now, I'll require unrestricted access to all Sulaban databases and scientific archives." Murloc's fist clenched. "You go too far, human." "On the contrary," Hawthorne countered, "we've only just begun." Across the galaxy, in a sterile laboratory, Dr. Novak hunched over a holographic display. Beside him, the Krelnorian scientist Vrok's tentacles danced across an alien interface. "There," Vrok gurgled, highlighting a cluster of data points. "Do you see it?" Novak's eyes widened. "Impossible. These signatures, they're attempting to replicate our star-moving technology." Vrok's skin rippled with concern. "If this proliferates unchecked, the entire galactic structure could destabilize," Novak finished, his voice barely above a whisper. Back on the Sulaban homeworld, chaos erupted in the streets of the capital. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air as a group of black-clad figures stormed a human outpost. "Death to the oppressors!" one of the attackers shouted, his face concealed behind an ornate mask. "The hand of vengeance strikes!" Inside a secret Kunthari research facility, Zathura stood before a gathering of human and Kunthari scientists. Her eyes locked with Zilthia's, the former spy, now a reluctant collaborator. "We stand at a crossroads," Zathura began. "Our actions nearly plunged the galaxy into chaos. Now, we have a chance to harness this power responsibly." Zilthia stepped forward, her voice steady. "The Star Mover technology has potential beyond warfare. Imagine barren worlds transformed, dying ecosystems revived." As the scientists delved into their work, Chancellor Hawthorne orchestrated his grandest display yet. In the skies above the Sulaban capital, a dying star flickered into existence. Sulaban citizens watched in awe and terror as Corvin took its place in their sky, its fading light forming an unmistakable emblem of human dominance. In his private chambers, Emperor Murloc stared out at the altered skyline. Valkorion approached, his footsteps hesitant. "Your Majesty," he began, "perhaps there's still a way to salvage our dignity, to carve out a place for ourselves in this new order." Murloc turned, his eyes blazing. "At what cost, Valkorion? At what cost?" "Cost, Valkorion?" Murloc turned, his eyes blazing. "Our sovereignty lies in tatters, our people subjugated. This is not peace, but slow death." Valkorion opened his mouth to respond, but the chamber doors burst open. A Sulaban guard stumbled in, clutching a bleeding wound. "Your Majesty," he gasped, "the hand of vengeance, they've struck again." Across the city, flames licked the sky as a human administrative center burned. Black-clad figures melted into the shadows, their work done. Chancellor Hawthorne surveyed the destruction from his fortified command post, eyes sharp. "Enough," he growled, activating a secure comm channel. "Admiral Evans, implement Protocol Omega. I want every Sulaban world under lockdown within the hour." On the streets below, panic spread as curfew sirens wailed. Human peacekeepers in powered armor herded civilians into their homes, weapons at the ready. In the bowels of a secret Quinthari facility, Zithra's fingers flew across holographic displays. Alarms blared as the monitoring grid flickered, sections going dark. "Impossible," she muttered, eyes wide. "Our safeguards—" A hand gripped her shoulder. She spun to find Zilthia, face grim. "It's not just us, look." On the main screen, star systems blinked out one by one, vanishing from the Quinthari's watchful gaze. Light years away, in a sterile lab aboard a cloaked station, Dr. Novak paced. The Krelnorian scientist Vrock gurgled in agitation, tentacles writhing. "The proliferation is worse than we feared," Novak said, running a hand through his thinning hair. "If we don't contain this—" Vrock's skin rippled. "The galactic structure could collapse entirely," Novak finished. He tapped a secure comlink. "Chancellor Hawthorne, we have a situation." In the shadowy depths of an asteroid base, Suthrin, the Akorian broker, smiled. His multifaceted eyes gleamed as he watched the unfolding chaos on a dozen screens. "Perfect," he purred, mandibles clicking. "Let the empires burn. From the ashes, our new order will rise." A subordinate scurried in, antenna twitching. "The false flag attacks are ready, sir. We await your command." Suthrin's smile widened, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. "Excellent. Let the game begin." The clandestine chamber buzzed with activity as Zuthrin's underlings scurried about, preparing for their next move. The Akorian broker's mandibles clicked in anticipation. "Initiate Phase 2, he commanded, his multifaceted eyes gleaming. "It's time to show these empires the true meaning of chaos." Across the galaxy, carefully planted, Syndicate operatives sprang into action. On the human empire's primary fuel refinery station, orbiting Epsilon Eridani, a seemingly innocuous maintenance worker slipped into a restricted area. With practiced ease, he inserted a data spike into the station's main control panel. Alarms blared as the refinery systems went haywire, fuel lines rupturing and venting precious resources into space. Similar scenes played out across a dozen key human logistics hubs. Supply chains fractured, leaving a frontier outpost cut off from vital resources. Admiral Evans pounded his fist on the war room table, scattering holographic star charts. "This reeks of Sulaban treachery," he snarled. "We must retaliate immediately." Chancellor Hawthorne's eyes narrowed as he studied the attack patterns. "I'm not so sure, Admiral. This level of coordination, it doesn't fit their MO." Dr. Novak cleared his throat. "Chancellor, if I may, the timing of these attacks, coupled with the recent breach of the Quinthari monitoring grid, I believe we're dealing with a third party." Hawthorne's gaze snapped to the scientist. "Explain." "The Akorian Syndicate," Novak said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They're the only ones with the reach and resources to pull this off." Evans scoffed. "Black market thugs? Impossible." "Not impossible," Hawthorne mused. "In fact, it makes a twisted kind of sense. Novak, what do you recommend?" The scientist's fingers danced across a holo display. "We've traced their Star Mover production to the Kaldrath cluster. If we strike there, we can cripple their capabilities." Meanwhile, in a dimly lit laboratory deep within Syndicate territory, Zuthrin loomed over a workstation where a Krelnorian scientist hunched, tentacles working feverishly. "How goes our little project, Vilrox?" Zuthrin purred. The Krelnorian's skin rippled with barely suppressed rage. "It progresses. Your modifications to the Star Mover technology are ambitious." Zuthrin's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Ambitious? My dear Vilrox, we're rewriting the very fabric of the galaxy. Now, show me." Vilrox activated a holographic display, revealing a simulation of pinpoint stellar bombardments striking key human and Quinthari installations. Suthrin's eyes glittered with malevolent glee. "Excellent," he hissed. "Prepare for deployment." Across the stars, Dr. Novak huddled with Vrock and Zilthia in a makeshift lab aboard a stealth frigate. Holoscreens flickered with cascading data as they fine-tuned their counterweapon. "Are you certain this virus will work?" Zilthia asked, her voice tinged with doubt. Novak nodded grimly. "It has to. If we don't stop the Syndicate now, the entire galactic structure could collapse." Vrok's tentacles writhed in agitation. The ethical implications of such a weapon are irrelevant, Hawthorne's voice cut in as he entered the lab. We're out of options. Deploy it. As the virus spread through subspace, corrupting Star Mover systems across the sector, Sutherin's carefully laid plans began to unravel. In the Kaldrath cluster, alarms blared throughout the Syndicate's hidden shipyard. Vilrox's eyes widened in panic as his console erupted in error messages. Impossible, he muttered. The Star Mover, it's inert. Before he could process the implications, the shipyard rocked with explosions. Through the observation dome, Vilrox watched in horror as a joint human-Quinthari strike force descended upon the facility. In the ensuing chaos, Sutherin slipped away, leaving his subordinates to face the onslaught. As he boarded his personal shuttle, he keyed in a series of commands. You may have won this battle, he snarled, but I still have one last card to play. Across the quadrant, 100 stars flickered ominously, their cosmic dance disrupted by an insidious virus. The galaxy held its breath, teetering on the brink of catastrophe. The galaxy trembled as stars flickered ominously, their cosmic dance disrupted by Sutherin's insidious virus. Chancellor Hawthorne's eyes hardened as he surveyed the holographic display of affected systems. We have no choice, he said, his voice cutting through the tense silence of the war room. Assemble a joint task force, human, Quinthari, anyone willing to fight. Admiral Evans leaned forward, his scarred face illuminated by the pulsing red alerts. And the target, sir? Dr. Novak cleared his throat. We've traced the virus's origin, an abandoned outpost in the Kyrian system. Kyrian? Evans scoffed. That backwater? Sometimes the most dangerous threats hide in plain sight, Admiral. Zithra interjected, her silver eyes gleaming. We must act swiftly. As the strike force assembled, a bitter debate raged. Evans pounded his fist on the table. We should obliterate the entire system. It's the only way to be sure. Zythra's voice rang out, sharp with anger. And destabilize space-time across a dozen inhabited worlds? Unacceptable. Croft stepped between them, his voice steady. There's another way. Novak's team can infiltrate the outpost, reverse the virus using its own systems. Hawthorne nodded grimly. Make it happen. The stealth frigate cut through the void, carrying Novak, Zithara, and a visibly conflicted Zilthia. As they approached the outpost, plasma fire erupted from concealed defense platforms. Syndicate mercs, the pilot shouted, jerking the ship into evasive maneuvers. Novak gripped his console, fingers tightening. We need to reach that reactor core. It's our only shot. The team fought their way through twisting corridors, Zithra's energy blasts clearing a path through waves of black-armored defenders. They reached the core as alarms blared, warning of imminent stellar collapse. Novak's fingers flew across alien consoles, sweat beading on his brow. The cipher. If I can just... A final push from Zilthia's hacking algorithms, and the virus's code unraveled before them. The star's energies reached critical focus, reality itself seeming to warp around them. Now! Novak shouted. Zilthia's hand slammed down on the transmit key, sending the deactivation code cascading through subspace. For a heartbeat, the universe held its breath. Then gradually the alarms fell silent. The oppressive pressure lifted. They'd done it. But victory was short-lived. As they staggered from the outpost, Zithara's communicator chirped urgently. Her face paled as she listened. Zuthrin, she hissed. He's corrupted our monitoring grid. He's trying to bypass all safeguards on stellar manipulation. Novak's eyes widened. If he succeeds... Zithara's fingers danced across her wrist computer, inputting a complex sequence. Not if I have anything to say about it. Transmitting core command overrides now. Across the sector, the delicate balance of power trembled. On a dozen worlds, citizens watched in horror as stars shifted in once immutable skies. The Sulaban homeworld teetered on the edge of destruction as Zuthrin attempted to reposition its star. Only the Quinthari's desperate interference saved millions of lives, but at a terrible cost. An uncontrolled pulsar flare erupted, bathing nearby systems in deadly radiation. Colonial outposts crumbled. Interstellar shipping lanes collapsed into quantum instability. In the chaos that followed, Hawthorne's forces struck hard at exposed syndicate strongholds. But amid the victories, a new threat emerged. The hand of vengeance, long simmering with resentment, saw their opportunity. Alarms blared through human empire command centers as insurgent forces materialized, striking at the heart of the Admiralty. Evans's face twisted with fury as reports flooded in. "Enough!" he snarled. "It's time to show these vermin what real power looks like." Hawthorne hesitated, but only for a moment. He nodded grimly. "Do what must be done, Admiral, whatever it takes." As Evans unleashed his fury across the stars, Emperor Murloc retreated further into his own mind, leaving the reins of the Protectorate firmly in Hawthorne's grasp. In the shadows, Zethara worked tirelessly, securing Quinthari oversight of all star-moving technology. And in the midst of it all, Croft and Novak labored to rebuild, their eyes fixed on a future where science and cooperation might yet forge a path through the darkness. The dust settled, but peace remained elusive. Chancellor Hawthorne stood at the viewport of his orbital command station, hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed the scarred face of Earth below. The hand of vengeance insurgency had been crushed, yet victory tasted like ash in his mouth. "Status report," he said, not turning as Admiral Evans entered the chamber. "The last pockets of resistance have been neutralized, sir," Evans replied, his voice gruff. "We've implemented martial law on 17 colonial worlds. It won't be popular, but it will keep them in line." Hawthorne nodded. "And the Quinthari?" Evans's lip curled. "Their overseers are everywhere, monitoring our stellar manipulation programs, as if we need alien babysitters." "For now we do," Hawthorne said sharply. "After Sutheran's manipulations, we can't afford another incident." A chime sounded, and Zethara's hologram materialized. "Chancellor, Admiral," she greeted them, her silver eyes unreadable. "I've been recalled to my homeworld. A matter of some urgency has arisen." Hawthorne frowned. "Who will oversee operations in your absence?" "Enforcer Yorvath," Zethara replied. "He's stringent in his methods, but effective. I trust he'll maintain order." As her image flickered out, Evans muttered, "Good riddance." Hawthorne shot him a warning glance. "Careful, Admiral. We need their cooperation, at least for now." Across the sector, on a nondescript research station orbiting a gas giant, Dr. Novak hunched over his workstation. His eyes were bloodshot, stubble darkening his jaw. He barely registered the pneumatic hiss of the lab doors opening. "Doctor," a crisp voice said, "I have a proposition for you." Novak looked up, blinking in surprise at the young Protectorate officer standing before him. "Who are you? How did you get clearance for this level?" The officer smiled, a predatory glint in his eyes. "My name is Morven, and I have friends in interesting places. But more importantly, I have information you'll want to hear." He produced a data crystal, holding it tantalizingly out of reach. "The Quinthari are lying to us, Doctor. They have no intention of scaling back stellar repurposing. In fact, they're expanding their own programs while keeping us shackled." Novak's eyes widened. That's impossible. The treaty is a sham," Morven finished. "But we have a chance to level the playing field, to take back control of our destiny among the stars." He leaned in close, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Imagine a cloaked array hijacking their monitoring grid, humanity, unfettered by alien oversight, harnessing the power of entire star systems." Novak felt a familiar thrill of temptation, mixed with a cold spike of fear. "What you're suggesting? It's beyond dangerous. It's madness." Morven's grin widened. "Perhaps, but isn't that where true genius lies? Think about it, Doctor. I'll be in touch." As the officer left, Novak stared at the equations scrolling across his screen. The numbers seemed to dance, whispering of possibilities both glorious and terrible. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling with the weight of choice. In the shadows of the station's lower decks, Morven tapped a secure comlink. "Phase 1 complete," he murmured. The good doctor is intrigued. Shall I proceed with recruitment? A distorted voice crackled through the speaker. Proceed, but carefully. We cannot afford another Zuthran situation. Morven's eyes gleamed in the darkness. Understood. Soon the stars themselves will bow to human will. As he strode away, the station's recycled air seemed to pulse with anticipation. In the vast cosmic tapestry, threads of destiny began to shift, weaving a pattern that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.